They're in shop doorways, they're dotted along the seafront, they're in little parks, in alleyways, caves, tents out in the woods. They're hidden everywhere. Some of them are in more obvious places, others are more hidden away and want to be left alone. They're not proud of the fact they're homeless, they've hit hard times and they don't want to be in the public eye. I think we've always been welcomed by homeless people on the streets because we're no threat to them. We're just giving them a basic provision to their need. We've seen a 27% increase in rough sleepers in the last year. Vast majority of them are men, probably 1 in 10 are female. The average life expectancy of a homeless person's 43, and sadly time and time again we see that figure confirmed. Part of the work of Project Antifreeze is offering that life-saving support. Sadly, it's very true that it's not safe to sleep on the streets. And we've seen the result of that this winter. We've had 10 deaths on the streets of our clients. In one case, we came across the client who had died. And that's really tough as a homeless worker. We've got to point out the dangers of them sleeping rough. We want to help them to move on. They can come along to our day centre. We've got internet access for them. We've got a kitchen for them. Toiletries there. They can wash, shave, get changed. When they're new, we'll sit down with them and just go through why are they homeless? What started it all? What have they tried in the past? What agencies have they worked with in the past? What led to it all happening? We'll explore long-term solutions like housing or reconnecting with a family member. When a client's ready and wants to move on, we can arrange referrals into housing, community housing, hostels, temporary accommodation, or even rehabilitation centres and farms.
It's just as well this place is here, really, you know what I mean? It really is. Yeah, volunteers here are wicked, but do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be like this. We've got a wide range of people in here. You've got pregnant women coming here, and it just shouldn't be like this. It's sad. It really is.
It's like more than just a job. It's like they want to help. They don't really make you feel bad or anything. They try and help you through things.
So as a Christian charity, we like to offer a holistic care, and that's for body, mind and soul. I think it'd be very easy as a Christian to just want to march in there with the Bible and explain the gospel to them and ignore the fact that what they needed was a clean pair of clothes. Sometimes the gospel is more practically showed by just loving them like Jesus loved them.
He did said for himself, I have no place to sleep. Then he's homeless, isn't it? I'm not shy to say I'm homeless. I'm proud to be homeless with this kind of people, which they have a very nice heart.
We've got to go out and we've got to care for their bodies. We've got to provide clothing for them. We've got to provide food for them. You know, that's meeting a very basic need. But it's just as important, people's spiritual need. People come to us, we think they're hungry, but actually they come to us asking for prayer. They come to us wanting to read the Bible. They come to us wanting to connect with God. I've always found having tools like booklets or Christian literature to hand out just so useful when people come to you. Sometimes giving a whole Bible can be too much, but if you can give a leaflet on a certain theme, that can be so useful for them to just take away and read in their own time and come back to us with questions if they have some.
I'm not really a Christian myself, but I do have a few spiritual beliefs in that, so it sort of helps in that way. You know, you feel a bit down at sometimes, just reading a small thing will lift the spirits a bit, you know. So it sort of helps me get through things as well.
From our night shifts, I think the important thing is that we're starting to build a relationship with these guys. We're meeting them where they're at, where they live. We ask permission to come into their area because that's their lounge. That's why we start building relationship with them. So it's just befriending them, getting to know them, building up that trust with them, and gradually just showing there's other options out there. Life doesn't need to stay like this.
Have a good night, guys.
We'll probably want
As usual, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
It's always a pleasure to see you next week.
There is that verse that says choose life or choose death, And for me, them empowering me to make a choice was something that I had never felt. I'd never been able to make a decision for myself.
I was trapped in various self-destructive cycles, trying to search for some happiness and love in all the wrong places. It just left me feeling emptier.
My life was mainly being afraid of everything and everyone.
I couldn't even put words to God anymore. I didn't want to worship him. I didn't want to talk to him.
I would be demanding from people until they had nothing left to give me.
It felt like I just kept trying to stand up and I just kept falling back down.
I knew at that point it had to be my choice to live.
Because I had known God all my life, I had these beliefs, of course, that we taught in Sunday school, that God is a protector, he's a provider, he's a shepherd. But when I was then 12 years old and I was groomed into a sexual relationship with a local drug dealer, all of those truths seemed to be lies. I was so desperate to know this loving God that I had experienced as a child, but on the other, how could I trust a God that didn't seem to come through when I needed him the most?
Mercy exists to provide opportunities for people to experience God's unconditional love, his forgiveness and his life-transforming power.
Mercy created the environment where I could start asking those questions, and I had the time and space to hear the answers that he would whisper to my heart.
We run a residential home for young women with life-controlling issues, that's eating disorders, self-harming, depression. We take girls in from all over the UK in partnership with their local church, and we have the privilege of working with them for 6 months.
While I've been at Mercy, God has brought me on a journey of finding out who I am in him. He's just brought me to a place of really feeling loved and not needing to go to other people for love because I have it from him.
They go home, they go back to their churches, they walk out their normal lives, but something in them has changed. They've been equipped and empowered. They have tools now that aren't just about getting free from their past. It's about being able to build a future.
So yeah, before Mercy, I didn't have any dreams. I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do with my life. Now I look back and I'm beginning to formulate dreams of maybe I could sing, maybe I could encourage someone, maybe, and they're small dreams, but actually they're dreams that I didn't have before.
I'd love to tell you about one of our graduates. She used to spend every day thinking about different ways to die. And after graduating this program, after meeting Jesus, after understanding that he is the giver of life and accepting that for herself, she became a midwife. And she wrote to us a while ago saying what a transformation it's been to spend each day thinking about ways to die and now spending each day bringing new life into the world.
The Bible has been a massive part of my journey here. Psalm 91 verse 1, that verse is kind of like, for me, getting a big cuddle from God.
I have the booklet, the one about finding hope, on my bedside table, and I've started reading it every day because it just sort of puts some of the truths of God into one simple booklet.
In one of my struggles of understanding and coming to terms with, look, am I broken or am I beloved? And I went out to one of the basketball courts and I just started whacking this basketball down and throwing it down and throwing it down. And I said, I'm done. And I turned around to walk away. And as I turned around, I heard in my spirit, I love you. And it's the last thing that I ever expected to hear, but God knows it's the thing that I needed to hear the most.
The first woman that I talked to, she was a bit older. She could have been my mom. And I was just kind of shocked. It was a very dingy alley, and it was very dark and very depressing. And the woman, she just looked like someone had run over her with a truck. And it just made a very lasting impact that these women, they have no hope, and they have no life, they have no perspective, and they just stand there on the street. And it just struck me that these women are just in need of a lot of hope.
Human trafficking is a great injustice in our world, and it's increasing, and it's not even that that present in the media. I mean, it's getting more so, but most people that I come in contact with, they don't think about that on a daily basis, and it just makes me really angry. And if through my faith I have something that I can do something against that with, then it kind of makes sense.
About 90% of all women in prostitution have been abused, sexually abused, either in the family or by, close people by the age of 14. And many of the girls we've talked to have come from broken relationships, broken families, dysfunctional families, and also broken marriages or boyfriends who, let them down. And so some see this as a way of sort of getting back at men, really. And others, if they have children, it's a way to survive. But quite a few of those girls have goals. I'm going to stay for so many years, and I'm going to earn money, and I'm going to do this or that. And some have done that. Others are stuck.
Alabaster Jar is a ministry who tries to make friends with people that probably don't have many friends in our society and are looked down on, and we try to do that by bringing coffee and smiling and telling them about a God that loves everyone no matter what they do.
Well, specifically working with women in prostitution, and we use that term, not prostitute. And I think this is important because, the word prostitute has so much negativity about it, and it's demeaning, whereas women working in prostitution, or prostituted women, is really what they do, not who they are. So it just restores a little dignity, and this ministry is all about trying to restore dignity.
Berlin in Germany, because it's so central, is a place in Europe where there's quite a lot of changing of human kind of resources in terms of trafficking, and so we can see a lot of change on the streets, especially from Eastern Europe. So that brings with it a lot of difficulties because of the language barriers. That's like the hardest and the saddest, because we want to hear their stories so much, but we can't really, and that's when the literature comes in, because that's sometimes the only way that we can talk at all about God and communicate something. There's so many stories about prostitutes in the Bible, so that's always a great way to start, and it's a great way for them to see that we have a God who doesn't devalue someone the way that we as human beings do. And I think it's so great we can talk about the Bible and the stories in it so naturally, because it's such a direct contact. Not every profession is in the Bible, but prostitution is there actually quite a lot.
When you tell somebody something small like, I think you look really pretty today, and they look like you've given them the world, it's there's nothing else like it, kind of, to actually be involved in changing a person's life and helping them see themselves through eyes that God, like how God sees them, what their worth is and their value and their dignity.
I think it's very important that our work here is holistic. We're there for the women, and the underlying focus all the time for me is the gospel of Jesus Christ, that we want to share the love of Christ with the women. Giving them scripture, we're basically just trying to say there's a God there that loves you, and as you are.
They're away for 9-10 months of the year. They don't see their families. It can be very lonely, very hard and very difficult.
Life on the ship is different from the life on the earth, because ship become your home.
When I'm here on board, my baby born, I just see him in only a Facebook and Skype. I can tell to my son just 7 more days. Then we will see each other already.
I want to see my family, my wife and my son. I miss so much. I have never seen 6 months. When I'm speaking and I'm calling my family, he said, "Papa, where are you?" It's hard.
This summer we had 58 cruise ships called in Invergordon. On board there were in the region of 75,000 passengers. Included in those, of course, would be between 25 and 30,000 crew. And I think the busiest day this year we had about 400 seafarers in, over and above the passengers that call. Our church was opened in 1862. The spire is on all of the navigation charts for the Cromarty Firth. When we started opening our doors, especially for the seafarers, around 20 years ago, we had 4 volunteers. Over the years, the number of volunteers have grown in line with the number of seafarers that visit the church. And last year, we discovered we had over 40. We give facilities here for the seafarers to come in and speak to their families in real time. They can see their wife and their children.
When you can talk to your partner, to your wife, if you were down, your spirit is up.
I have a chance to make a Skype or Facebook to my family. That's the only thing I got.
Being away from their families is very, very hard. Some of them have children so young, it might be 2 or 3 months when they go away, and by the time they come back, they'll maybe just make their first birthday, or they might even miss it. They're away for that long.
Seafarers can come. We are free to speak to them at any time, to help them with any of their problems, practical or spiritual.
People are very warm and welcoming.
They say to me, welcome. It's very important for me. Smile, friendly. I said friendly every time.
When the seafarers come in, we show them the shelves at the door where we have all our books and Bibles. We have Bibles which we give to them in whichever language they wish. It's sometimes easier to have them to take a little booklet. One of the books we use is a little book called Daily Strength. It's an easy book to understand, and it's one that I recommend to a lot of the young people that come in.
It's good to have literature to give them, because even if they can't spend the time talking, then they've got the literature to take away with them.
Through prayer, through the Bible, through a variety of books and leaflets that we have, we share our faith with them.
I would say that's what gives them the most strength, is knowing that they've got God with them at all times, and it's very important to a lot of them.
We see people come back year after year, and we see that ships that hadn't got a fellowship before have Christian fellowships on board, and we see the change in the lives of some of these young people.
Out of 800 crew members, and we have 30, it's a little hard for me, because you would like to see this in a bigger family fellowship.
We in the church here are older people simply because we have the time in our lives to come to the church, and we have the burden for these people.
When I think about them so far away from home, I look at them all as if they're my own children.
The last week was really cold, so they provide all kind of pastry, tea, coffee, glove, hats, even Bibles, books.
Yes, this cap, my present.
He was here 3 times or 4 times. Every time help us. Every time. It's good people is there.
Here in this church is amazing. I love it here.
I've been for 3 months off. I was excited, to get off this vessel this morning, to be here again, to get back with my brothers and sisters.
They're away for 9-10 months of the year. They don't see their families. It can be very lonely, very hard and very difficult.
Life on the ship is different from the life on the earth, because ship become your home.
When I'm here on board, my baby born, I just see him in only a Facebook and a Skype. I can tell to my son just 7 more days. Then we will see each other already.
I want to see my family, my wife and my son. I miss so much. I have never seen 6 months. When I'm speaking and I'm calling my family, he said, Papa, where are you? It's hard.
We get to know some of the crew that come in each time the ship berths in Invergordon. By the time the summer goes, they're close friends, and in days like today, when it's the last visit of one of the ships, we feel sorry seeing the ship leave the port. strangers on the shore have become friends in our midst, and we feel that's exactly what they are.
The inscription inside. Read it. God is nowhere. Private George Spencer, Christmas 1914.
We were kind of looking to commemorate the anniversary of the beginning of the First World War, and the story that really interested us was the Christmas truce, where the soldiers downed weapons and played football in no man's land. It's kind of just evolved from there, really, that we've created this whole play with a bit of a theme of faith and football.
It's thought that over 10,000 soldiers took part in unofficial Christmas truces during 1914. Peace was momentarily possible for all men.
As we play football on this cold Christmas morning, God is now here.
And what we came across was this lovely story of St John's Gospels by Scripture Gift Mission, who gave 43 million Gospels out to soldiers during the war. And we thought, well, that's a really poignant place to put hope in the story.
Soldiers, sailors, airmen, nurses found peace through this tiny little book.
I was reading one soldier who had it in his pocket. He died. It was passed on to his wife back at home, and just that moment of her reading it was welled up in tears in my eyes. And I think it's particularly well done with some of the soldier stories that are incorporated in the St John's Gospels.
We knew that Scripture Gift Mission had produced these beautiful replicas of the First World War John's Gospels, and we wanted to hand them out as gifts to people that might not necessarily go into church. So we've been in schools and prisons and out in the community. We've found that people have been really, really receptive and really enjoyed receiving them, really grateful.
One of the senior directors of the council turned to me and said, "Oh, my grandfather had one of those, and it's still in the family."
I think that's great. I think it's really good. Yeah, I do, yeah. I'll give that to my son.
I love it. I'm going to keep it in my handbag.
War is not the greatest way to recruit believers, but I guess here I am praying, like millions of other mothers and daughters tonight.
We just want people to leave emotional about what the Christmas truce, obviously, thinking about the soldiers at that time, but feeling that hope among the harrowing.
Forgive my doubts, but sometimes I think if I were God, I wouldn't keep so quiet. Whilst the helpless die in their thousands. But I suppose your ways are higher than ours.
I was struck by the inscription on the inside. You read there from Lord Roberts, who is the former Commander-in-Chief of the Forces, and he writes on the 25th of August 1914, "I ask you to put your trust in God. He will watch over you and strengthen you. You will find in this little book guidance when you are in health, comfort when you are in sickness, and strength when you are in adversity."
It wasn't God who fired the first shot, it was us. Men playing God, playing with life and death.
But the inscription inside, God is nowhere.
But God is nowhere. God is now here. That was the truth for many, many men that went to war. And we believe it's the same truth today, with the same God that is now here.
What a great evening. Fantastic, really well told and really moving. I had tears in my eyes.
It was brilliant, it was great.
I just think it was very powerful. I think the whole thing was very powerful. Absolutely fantastic. It was just beyond my expectations. Really? Yeah.